The CEO had seen hundreds of letters cross his desk: contracts, proposals, demands, but never one written in a child's shaky handwriting. The envelope was smudged, folded too many times, and marked with 3 simple words: "Please read this." He almost tossed it aside, thinking it was another charity request. But something about the uneven lines and tiny sticker of a heart in the corner made him pause. When he finally opened it, his hands went still. The first line read, "My name is Lily. I'm writing to you because my mom says you can fix anything." Lily was only 8, but her words carried the weight of a lifetime. She wrote about her mother's small cafe, the one the CEO's company had unknowingly bought and planned to demolish. She didn't ask for money. She didn't even ask for help. She just wanted him to understand why that little cafe mattered. Every sentence felt like a heartbeat, every word a plea from someone who believed in kindness more than business. By the time he reached the end of the letter, something inside him shifted. But there was one line left, one he almost didn't want to read. It started softly, "If you're reading this," and trailed into a final wish that would shake him to his core. The CEO leaned back in his chair, heart pounding, realizing this wasn't just a letter. It was a goodbye. And what Lily wanted from him next would change everything. The CEO couldn't shake the letter from his mind. All afternoon, the words echoed in his head, pulling him away from his meetings and numbers. He tried to focus on the new project, the expansion that would replace small, failing shops with sleek glass buildings, but Lily's handwriting kept flashing before his eyes. Who was this little girl who wrote with so much honesty, and why did her letter feel more powerful than any deal he'd ever signed? That night, he found himself searching the company records, tracing the property Lily mentioned. The address matched a small cafe on Maple Street, run by a woman named Sarah Hayes. The name stirred something faint in his memory, but he couldn't place it. The cafe was due for demolition in less than a week. According to the file, the owner hadn't responded to the buyout, offered just one returned envelope marked *address no longer valid. The next morning, he drove there himself. The cafe looked tired but warm, with faded blue paint and hand-drawn menus still taped to the window. Inside, the smell of coffee lingered, though the lights were off. On the counter, beside a few dusty mugs, lay another envelope with the same tiny heart sticker. His chest tightened as he picked it up. It wasn't addressed to him this time. Just 3 words written carefully across the front, "For when you're ready." He didn't know what that meant yet, but he had a feeling this was only the beginning. He stood there for a long moment, the quiet cafe around him filled with ghosts of laughter and old memories. The letter in his hand felt heavier than it should. When he finally opened it, he saw the same careful handwriting, Lily's again. "If you're reading this, it means Mom had to close the cafe. But please don't feel bad. She says every ending can still be kind." The words made his throat tighten. There was no bitterness, no blame, only hope. And then, at the bottom, a single line that sent chills down his spine. "Mom doesn't know I wrote to you again. I just wanted to thank you for trying." But he hadn't tried. Not yet. That night, he couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about Sarah Hayes, the woman who once owned this place. A single mother, according to the report, struggling to keep the cafe running after medical bills piled up. He found an old news article online, a photo of her holding a small girl with bright eyes and curly hair. Lily. His heart sank as he read the date. It was from 3 years ago. The next morning, he went to the local hospital, following a faint lead. A nurse recognized the name instantly. "Sarah Hayes," she said softly. "She still visits the children's ward sometimes, especially around the holidays." The CEO nodded, though a strange unease stirred inside him. Something told him Lily's story wasn't finished and the truth he was about to uncover might break him before it healed him. The CEO arrived at the hospital with the letter still tucked in his coat pocket, his heart pounding faster than he wanted to admit. The corridors were quiet except for the soft hum of machines and distant laughter from the children's ward. When he finally saw her, Sarah Hashi was sitting by a window, holding a small box in her lap. Her eyes looked tired, but there was a calmness about her that drew him in. He hesitated before speaking. "Mrs. Hayes." She turned, and for a moment, confusion flickered across her face before recognition set in. She knew who he was, the man whose company had taken her cafe. But instead of anger, there was only sadness in her eyes. He told her about the letters, about how he'd found them, and how he couldn't stop thinking about Lily. Her hands trembled as she opened the box, revealing a small ribbon, a few drawings, and a photo of Lily smiling at the cafe counter. She wrote that letter before she got sick. Sarah whispered, she believed people could change if they just listened long enough. His chest tightened as he realized the truth that the final wish in Lily's letter wasn't about saving a cafe. It was about saving something much deeper. Sarah slid one more envelope toward him, sealed with the same tiny heart sticker. "She wanted you to have this," she said softly. His hands shook as he reached for it. Afraid of what those last words might say, his fingers hovered over the envelope, afraid of what he might find inside. The room felt smaller, the sound of his heartbeat louder. Slowly, he peeled it open. Inside was a folded piece of paper and beneath it, a small key tied to a pink string. The letter was short, written in the same neat handwriting. "If you found this, it means you cared enough to come. The key opens something Mom doesn't know about. Please, Take her there. She'll understand. He looked up, but Sarah's eyes were already glistening with confusion. A key, she whispered. I don't know what she... Her voice trailed off as realization flickered in her expression. Without another word, she stood and walked quickly down the corridor. He followed her through the quiet hospital halls and out into the cold evening air. They drove in silence, until she stopped in front of an old building on the edge of town, a storage place, almost forgotten. Inside, among the dust and old boxers, stood a small wooden chest with Lily's name carved on top. Sarah hesitated, her hand trembling as he placed the key in the lock. The lid creaked open, revealing a stack of letters, dozens of them, each addressed to people in town, teachers, neighbors, even the company's construction crew. Lily had written to them all, trying to save the cafe. Yes, but more than that, trying to bring everyone together again. The CEO stared at the letters, realizing Lily's wish had never really been about walls or buildings. It had been about hearts. As the CEO lifted one of the letters, the air in the room felt charged, almost sacred. Each envelope carried the same small heart sticker, each written in Lily's hopeful hand. Sarah sat beside him, tears slipping quietly down her cheeks as she read the names people who had once filled their cafe every morning. The teacher who helped Lily with her spelling, the mailman who always brought her an extra cookie, the neighbor who fixed the cafe's old radio. Every person had been part of a story Lily didn't want to end. When they opened the last envelope, something fell out, a folded photograph of Lily standing beside her mother, grinning proudly beneath a hand-painted sign that read * Maple Caf, a place for everyone. On the back, in faint pencil, Lily had written, * if people remember kindness, the cafe will never close. * The CEO felt something inside him break open. All the numbers, the deals, the buildings, they suddenly felt meaningless. Without a word, he turned to Sarah. We can bring it back, he said. Not just the cafe, the people. Her wish. For a moment, silence filled the room. Then Sarah smiled through her tears. But as she reached to hug him, she noticed something tucked inside the chest, a final sealed note addressed not to anyone else, but to him. He opened it slowly. Inside was a single line written in Lily's soft scrawl. * You were my dad's best friend once. Please, don't forget what you promised him. * The world seemed to stop. He looked up at Sarah, speechless, because she wasn't the only one who'd lost something. He had too. For a long moment, he couldn't speak. The memories came flooding back, the laughter of his old friend, the late nights they'd spent planning dreams neither of them had time to chase. He had promised to look after Sarah and her little girl if anything ever happened, but life, and ambition, had made him forget. Now, standing in that quiet room surrounded by Lily's words, he felt the full weight of that broken promise. Sarah's eyes softened with understanding. You knew him, didn't you? She whispered. He nodded slowly, his voice barely audible. He was like a brother to me. I didn't know Lily was his daughter. Sarah reached out, placing her hand over his. You do now, she said gently. A few months later, Maple Caf reopened, not as part of a company project, but as a community space, free for families and children. The same wooden sign hung above the door, its colors brighter than before. Locals gathered again, laughing, sharing stories, and remembering the little girl who had believed in kindness more than anything else. Every morning, the CEO, now just Michael to everyone, sat by the window where Lily once drew pictures of her dreams. He kept one of her heart stickers on his desk as a reminder that success meant nothing without compassion. As he watched the cafe fill with life once more, he finally understood Lily's final wish. She hadn't wanted him to fix something broken, she wanted him to remember how to care.